Hello and welcome to Coffee with Jenny B. It's conversations over coffee. It's about community, connections, what brings me joy, and everything in between. I'm your host, Jenny Sakovac. Did you know that the average person makes between 33,000 and 35,000 decisions every day? That is a huge number of decisions. And it's everything from, what am I going to wear today? Should I have coffee or tea? But also big ticket items, buying a house, buying a car, things that take a lot of research. Now, Google, of course, is most of us go to for information about everything. And when it comes to medical decisions and medical symptoms, my husband likes to go to Dr. Google. And it's kind of tricky because not all the information is accurate unless you're accessing the Mayo Clinic, for instance, or Health Canada. And my daughter, who's a nurse, has told my husband, don't Google your symptoms. But when it comes to research, when we're looking into situations that require either funding for nonprofit groups, for health issues, and other important aspects, you go to a reputable source. And that reputable source in Manitoba is Research Manitoba. My guest today is the CEO of Research Manitoba. Her name is Jennifer Cleary, and we're going to learn more about what Research Manitoba does and how it can help you learn more about the important aspects that might be vital to your life. Please help me welcome Jennifer Cleary. Hey, Jennifer.
Hey, thanks. Thanks for having me. This is going to be fun.
Wonderful. Yes, it's absolutely going to be fun. It's a conversation over coffee. So thank you for being here. Now, what does Research Manitoba actually do?
So we do a few things. We are primarily the funding organization for research in Manitoba, hence the name. So we fund student researchers, we fund university and college academic professionals, and we also fund industry in doing their research and development in order to do exactly what you were just saying, find a safe source for science, knowing that our research dollars are going into the best and brightest in the province. And through our student grants, we are making sure we're keeping those students here in Manitoba. The other part of Research Manitoba is our Rhythm initiative, which is harmonizing health research ethics in Manitoba. And you could probably do an entire conversation with the director of Rhythm herself on that. It's a very complex but very necessary space that we're working in there.
Well, that's wonderful to learn that not only do you support obviously things that are staying here in Manitoba, but you also provide a lot of grants for students and helping to keep them in the province, because I know that that's an issue sometimes because we're losing all that talent, and not just talent, but that knowledge and also the bright future that students can provide in terms of research into medical issues, science, et cetera, et cetera. So what goes behind applying for those grants, or what kind of grants are available?
Sure. So on the student side, we fund master's, PhD, and postdocs. We are one of the only funders in Canada who actually also funds international students. A lot of organizations fund only Canadian or permanent residents. So we're really proud of that, and it's something that I've been certainly bragging a lot about over the last year that I've been in this position. And so usually it's a student who has a research idea, they're working with an academic colleague, and they just want to move forward with their career, right? Mm-hmm. They want to provide and grow this province. And so that's really what it's all about. They have an idea, they have someone to work with them, and they're eager.
Well, you know what? And those are all ingredients that make up a really fantastic project. Now, what are some of the criteria? So we talked about, that there's health, there's medicine, there's science. Is education part of that as well?
Yeah, so we fund health, natural sciences, and engineering, as well as social sciences and humanities, which would include the education space. So we're full spectrum of everything.
Okay. And when it comes to applying for grants, what are some of the criteria that are required? Do you have to have certain qualifications, and are there restrictions that are a part of this?
So for a student, let's say, who's applying for a master's, they would have to have completed their post or their bachelor's degree. Generally, you have to have a higher GPA.
Of course.
Our minimum, though, I think is a 3.5. Don't quote me on that. I might have just quoted myself, though.
It's all good.
Yeah, there is a minimum GPA for that space. And again, it's really about having that research idea and that research proposal and someone to support you through the journey. So having a supervisor to work with you is just as important as having a high GPA, right? We're looking for students who are eager and who are going to make a difference within our communities as well.
Now, does a student necessarily have to have an advisor? Can they say, hey, I have a great idea and I'd like to do X?
No, they need to have a supervisor with them. Yeah, that supervisor, that mentor-mentee is really, really important. Because if there's someone who's working in the lab, let's say, right?
Oh, yes.
You know, you're going to have safety concerns. If they're working with like human participants, you have ethics. And so just having that mentor to show you the ropes is really important.
So you mentioned that it covers a wide spectrum of ideas in terms of prospecting and really digging deep into finding solutions for possible problems. Because really, if there's a problem, then there needs to be a solution, but it's identifying that problem, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it definitely is. And I think that along the way, students learn how to do that, right? They learn that in their undergraduate degree, and they learn that in their diploma programs, you know, finding that hypothesis, finding what's passion for them as well, because these students are passionate, right? When you're going into that higher education space, you have to love what you're doing. And so that's where a lot of that's driven from as well. And I think in our area and in our industry and in what we do as an organization, we are very passion driven as well.
Well, and students are our future.
Yeah.
And I love that you also include international students as well as domestic. And so have you seen an influx of international students wanting to apply for research grants?
I don't know about an influx. I think we've had definitely a steady volume. There are a lot of very, very strong international students who aren't necessarily given the opportunity to apply to other grants. And so we're proud to be able to support those students. And like you said, they're the future, they're our future, right? And so I don't know about an influx, but we definitely have a number. We definitely have a number of international students. And I was at an event a couple of weeks ago hosted by the Bioscience Association's youth group. And I had 3 international students come up to me at that event and thank me for Research Manitoba funding. So it really, really shows you the impact that it has on those students.
Oh, that's wonderful.
Yeah.
I know, and as an instructor for the University of Winnipeg, I teach international students, and when they come to Canada, they're just so passionate about education, about learning, and it's a huge step for them to leave their country, coming into Canada, coming into Winnipeg, not knowing anything about the culture, not knowing whether they're going to stay or fit in or what their possibilities are. And so to know that there are opportunities for them, I think is really important.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I would totally agree. It is really heartwarming to hear those students come back to us and thank us and be so appreciative, right? That, again, it's that passion driven, and that's what I think helps our team know that what we do is making a difference.
And speaking of making a difference, you're celebrating your 10th anniversary this year. That's amazing.
I know.
So tell us about that.
Yeah, it's a really exciting time for us. I remember when Research Manitoba actually started. I was on parental leave with my youngest son, and I was working at the University of Winnipeg at the time. And I really didn't know what that was going to mean for research in Manitoba. And over the last 10 years, I think as an organization, we've really found our footing, and we are really supporting and making an impact in this province. And so over the course of the year, we're doing monthly profiles on researchers who we funded in every year from a variety of our grants. And we're going to be doing kind of some celebratory stuff as well along the way. Really just trying to put ourselves out there a little bit more, doing things like this, letting people know who we are, And just also making sure that folks are aware that we have 10 great years behind us and a lot more ahead of us.
Mm-hmm. Now, because you are Research Manitoba, obviously you are funded by the province of Manitoba. Now, do you receive any funding from the federal government as well, or is it strictly provincial?
No, we're 100% provincially funded. So we're funded through the Department of Advanced Education and Training. And all of our funding comes through there. We do have partnerships that we have with outside agencies and foundations that are kind of like matching programs that we offer, but our core funding is all provincial funding.
Okay. Now, is there a cap in terms of the funding that's provided for grants? So let's say, for instance, I was a student and I wanted to look into science and I had a mentor. And let's say I wanted $50,000 as a grant. Is that something that you do provide, or is there sort of a cap, or does it really depend on the project that I'm looking at getting funding for?
So it depends on the program.
Okay.
So the students all have varying dollar amounts that they receive, and it doesn't matter whether it's health or whether it's social sciences. All the students receive the same grant amount.
Okay.
The new investigators, they receive a separate dollar amount. So social science researcher, let's say it's $20,000 a year for 2 years.
Okay.
Then we have our innovation proof of concept grant, which again, varying dollar amounts, so it depends on the grant type more than the project.
All right. And now, is there reporting capabilities? So for instance, if students get a grant, is it a monthly report? Is it a yearly report? What kind of information are you looking for? And also, I guess, second question would be, based on the evidence that this research is providing, is it matching what you're looking for? So for instance, let's say they're doing all this research and it doesn't quite give you the information that you're looking for. So what do you do in that instance, I guess?
So we do reporting. We do annual reporting. Most of our student grants are one-year grants, so it's just kind of an end of grant report for them. For our other programs, they're usually 2 years, so it's an annual interim and then a final. We're capturing things like, did they present at a conference? Did they publish a paper? Did they speak to it at a community event, right? Did they go to a school and talk about their research? In some cases, is there IP that comes out of that research? Or did it move into the market, right? Their innovation. So it's a little bit of everything. And I think for the most part, we are capturing really important data, regardless of whether or not it's what they intended at the beginning. Because the thing about research is what you say you're going to do and what comes out of it sometimes shifts along the journey, right? And that's okay. That's part of research. So
when we think about research, or even thinking about, I've got an idea and I have this whole plan in terms of what my idea is going to be. And I like to be big picture. So when I'm doing an event, for instance, I like to envision what the event is actually going to turn out. And I try to do whatever I can to make sure that happens. But even though you may have an idea in terms of what you're looking for, and then once you start getting into it, then you run into, oh, okay, I guess this is not going to work. And so then there's plan B, C, all the way to Z. And then along the way, your original idea might also morph into something else, just because it's based on the findings, and maybe the information that you were looking for in the beginning isn't available. And so what do? You can't just give up. You have to switch gears and think, okay, well, maybe I'll switch into this area. And so if that happens, we talk about mentors. So now, in addition to their mentor or advisor, does Research Manitoba also provide some of that advising or assistance along the way?
Not so much, I would say, along the way in that sense. We'll try to provide guidance as we can, but usually in those situations, that's like for students, that's their advisor and their supervisor will help them. For companies, it's about them coming to us and saying, you know what, this didn't work. Can we shift here? And we're saying, yep, absolutely. That's totally fine. We see the end result being the same. And we've had some companies that received funding during our COVID fund. We had a COVID innovation proof of concept, and they did their research based on an idea around COVID. And then along the journey, they discovered that it actually would be valid for wine grapes. and testing wine grapes.
Oh.
And so like a major
Wow.
pivot, but it's been really successful for that company, right? So they're using the exact same technology and same thought for what they supported for COVID as they are now for supporting wineries with grapes.
Interesting.
Yeah.
You know, and it makes me think about accidental inventions. You know, Post-it notes, for instance.
Yeah.
That was a total accident. And I mean, we use Post-it notes everywhere. Gatorade. I know, right?
Yeah.
So when we go into research, and even individually, let's say I'm planning a trip and I'm doing some research into, you know, best hotels, et cetera, and then along the way, I discover that the hotel that we had booked is not available, and so now I'm going into something completely different, which I would not have done if that hadn't happened. So sometimes accidents, even though you think about, you know, being negative, can turn into something really magical.
Absolutely. It's life, right?
Yeah.
Life is research, and that's kind of the way I throw it out there, and try to relate it, because I think a lot of people, when they think research, get a little bit nervous about it or a little bit bored. I've had that come at me where people are like, what do you mean you do that as a living? But it's really just life.
Yeah,
right? We all, like you said at the beginning, we all do it.
We do.
It's just how we go out there and express that to the world.
Yeah. Well, I'm a self-professed nerd. You know, in high school, I was yearbook editor, and you know, all of that.
I was yearbook too.
Okay. Okay. I was also on Reach for the Top. So for anybody that knows what Reach for the Top, look it up. But you know, so being a brainiac in a sense, but I love reading, I love input, and really I do research all the time. I'm looking, so anything that I'm doing, I'm looking into it. I want to find more information, because I'm not just going by what you see on Google, I mentioned that, but even social media. I mean, there's so much out there that, you know, fake news and what do you believe? And so you have to do your research. You have to, what are some reputable sites? What is information that is backed up? Even on Instagram, like if there's an account, if there's a little check mark or something indicating that this is legit versus, you know, somebody who's pretending to be someone.
Yeah. And I think that's part of my next vision for Research Manitoba as we go through the next 10 years. I'm putting it that way now when I'm talking about where we're going, is to kind of help elevate that message, right? And to become a place where people know, you know, I can contact this group, or I can look on their website to see who we've featured or whatever, right? To see where those reputable organizations are, or even just being that hub to say, you know what, maybe look at what the University of Winnipeg has, or there's somebody at the University of Manitoba who's working on that. So that's kind of our next space, and my next vision for the organization is helping get that word out and that impact a little bit more. And
I like the idea, and you mentioned the word fun, that research doesn't have to be boring, that doesn't have to be, you know, like scientists and so on, you know, working in labs, that it can be exciting because you're making new discoveries. And so you can have some fun along the way and make it exciting and make it something that, you know, students that want to do something, they want to make a difference in the world. So how can they do that? And if they have an idea, it's bringing that idea forward, working with an advisor, and then being excited and so proud of their accomplishments, but also making a difference in the world. So I like to think about making a difference for either myself or for the world. And that gives you that purpose, that intent that this is important and this is something that I should be doing.
Yeah, and like you said, research doesn't always have to be the person in the lab in the white coat, because it's not.
No.
But that is the first thing people think of when they hear the word. And I myself am not a scientist. I'm a liberal arts graduate, and I did research as an undergraduate student, right? Because that is what we do in those institutions and in our post-secondary studies. But it is about finding what you love, right? And once you find what you love, it's about then taking that to the next step. And that's really where I encourage students, is to find that love. And it might not be what you think it's going to be, right? You might think you're going to be a lawyer, you might think you're going to be a doctor, and then you get in there and you discover, wow, I really love philosophy, or I really loved organic chemistry, or whatever, right? And so that's, I think, the number one thing that students need to know, is that it's following that passion, and that's what's going to make you happy.
Yeah, and it's being open to possibilities, and you know, sometimes, you know, you have a vision that you want to follow down that path, and that's totally fine.
Yeah.
But it's okay to veer off and try different things, and you never know. If you don't try it, you don't know if it's going to work. And if you don't try it, then you think, oh, I wish I had. But it's never too late. It's always an opportunity to try something, even if you haven't had a chance to finish it. So I love that there's that potential.
Yeah, and I think for me, I never had that clear path. I had no idea what I wanted to be when I grew up. I tell people I still don't know what I want to be when I grow up. And so I think that like having that open to all the possibilities has helped me along the way and supported me in getting to where I am. Although I do admire people who have such vision. It was not me.
No, it wasn't me either. Now, I saw on social media, I think it was a couple of weeks ago, I noticed on your Instagram account that you're involved with STEM. So tell us about that.
Yeah, so it's something that, again, it's that passion-driven, right? And diversity and inclusion within the sciences is really important. So STEM, but also there's STEAM, right? So science, technology, education, arts, and mathematics.
Okay.
So you can kind of spice it up a little bit there. And it's about getting youth interested in those spaces, right? Especially youth who traditionally are underrepresented within that space. And so girls, it can be different socioeconomic, right? It's all sorts of things, but it's really about the importance of diversity and inclusion in that space. And so encouraging, it's exactly what we just talked about. It's encouraging people to find that passion and to not be scared of it.
Yeah. And, you know, especially girls, because I know that, and I don't know if this is still true now, but it used to be that girls, by the time they get to grade 8, they've lost interest in science and math, and maybe because I guess boys don't find it attractive, the girls are, I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know, isn't it?
Yeah, crazy, I know.
Yeah.
But so that's not the case anymore. Do you find that girls, especially as they get into their teenage years, that they want to pursue something that is more, you know, into science and math and engineering, for instance?
Yeah, I think we're slowly turning the tune on this. I don't know if it's 100% there yet, but I do think there are more young girls who are taking an interest in that. And I think if you look into a classroom of 19-year-olds in a second-year chemistry class, it'll probably be a pretty split gender, and it might even be more women than men. But it's about the career piece, I think, now, right? And encouraging them to continue in the careers. In engineering, there's a big push to have more proportionate numbers by 2030, because a lot of women in engineering, they go in and they leave fairly early on into their careers. And I don't know why that is, but it's really important to have that diverse perspective around every table. So, I think that supporting girls and letting people know that your journey isn't always going to be a nice, neat path, but follow what you are interested in and what you want to do is really important to me. And I think that young girls need to see what is that art of possible, right?
And also too, because I know a lot of those careers are male-dominated, engineering especially, that it can be sometimes a deterrent for women to want to, or young girls to want to be involved in those career paths. But it shouldn't be a deterrent, because it should be, well, you know, if a man can do it, a woman can do it as well. And really, and even trades, when you think about trades, more and more women are going into trades just because it's something that they have a passion for. You know, not everybody is book learning or want to, you know, work with their brain, working with hands and brain, but doing something physical. And it's really anything you want to do is possible.
Yeah, and I think now the shift is to mentorship, right? So now we're getting these young women interested and involved, but now it's about mentorship. It's about having someone that they can go to for support. It's about seeing that person, right? Who you are and someone else. And so I think there's a little bit of a push to that space as well in all those areas, right? Trades is 100% as well.
Okay. Yeah. Now, you had mentioned the students that are involved in these in the grant proposals and working on these different projects, that you're looking at, okay, are they speaking at schools, or are they publishing papers, or so there's some criteria that you're looking for in terms of results, in a sense. Now, in addition to them speaking at schools about the project that they're working on, does Research Manitoba also get involved in speaking to schools and getting students really interested in wanting to be a part of the process?
So something new, right? That's kind of part of that next phase, right?
Okay.
And so, like, tomorrow is February 11th is the International Day for Science and Women, or sorry, Girls and Women in Science. And so we are actually going, and I'm going to be participating on a panel with a number of other female leaders in STEM to speak to grade 5 to 12 girls.
Oh, that's wonderful.
And so it is a new space. It's not something we've done before, but I think participating more in the younger age group is a space that we'll be looking at doing more of, participating in regional science fairs and all that kind of stuff, right?
Well, that's exciting, because it's really getting out there and really promoting what you're doing and getting them involved. And my granddaughter is 7, and she can't decide if she wants to be a veterinarian or she wants to be a lawyer, and so she's keeping her options open. But what's really important for young girls is, it used to be, well, oh, you're so pretty, or you're commenting on their appearance, but it's more important to say, I love how your brain works, or I love that you came up with that idea, or really commenting on their ability to use their brain, their talents, and encouraging them to really pursue that and want to make a difference in the world.
Yeah, it's about recognizing, I think, people as a whole, right?
Yes.
It's about recognizing their mind, their heart, and their beauty, because everyone is beautiful. So
Absolutely.
It's about all of that stuff.
Beauty inside and out.
Yeah, and I think that's a really important thing that we need to focus on as well.
Yeah, no, that's exciting. Now, I want to veer off into something a little bit personal. So I understand that you are a Green Bay Packers fan.
I am. I'm a diehard Packers fan. I'm a big cheesehead.
Okay, so how did that start?
So my aunt and uncle live in Minneapolis. Well, they live in just outside now, but and I think my aunt became a Packers fan to bug her coworkers in Minnesota. Mm-hmm. And I think that trickled down to me somehow. I'm really close with my aunt. And so I actually think that's how it started. And because it was at a very young age. And I'm still a big Packers fan. I try and get a game in every year if I can. My husband and I want to go to every single NFL stadium that we possibly can. It's kind of our bucket list item.
Wow.
So we're 4 or 5 down already, and we'll hopefully continue that into the future. And somehow, like, he's a Seattle Seahawks fan, but somehow we always manage to go to Packers games. They just work out better for my schedule.
Okay, we'll go with that. My brother-in-law, he's a huge Packers fan. In fact, his whole basement is like a shrine to Green Bay Packers. I'm a Chargers fan myself. I don't know, it started when they were San Diego Chargers, and now they're LA, but it's okay, it's still the same team. And my husband's a Vikings fan.
Ah, yes.
Yeah, I know.
They're everywhere here.
They are. But you know what? But I love watching NFL football, and especially when my team is playing. And I mean, I have to say, I didn't watch the Super Bowl this weekend because my team wasn't playing, and I wasn't a fan of either team, so it's like, I'm out.
I watched the second half. My sons had curling yesterday, so we got home in time for the second half. Don't worry, you didn't miss much.
No. But it's nice to have different interests, and especially when we think about football, for instance, when it's not typically something that women are really into. And I remember when I first met my husband, and I was talking about football, and he looks at me, he's just like, how do you know all this? Well, my dad was a football fan, my brother, because I came, hockey, same thing. And I actually probably know more about football than he does.
Oh, but, yeah, I'm the same thing.
Yeah. They think they know where everything is. Like, no, you don't.
Yeah, no, 100% it's me. I'm actually part of a fantasy football league too. I'm the only girl in my fantasy football league, and so I've been doing that for a number of years. I won it about 5 or 6 years ago. And
good for you.
Yeah, I haven't won it since, but
you know, bragging rights, right?
Absolutely. And I bought a brand new purse and wallet out of it. I thought of the most girly thing I could possibly do with that fantasy football money.
Good for you.
Yeah, so I am a super fan for sure.
Well, from one super fan to another, nice to meet you as far as football goes. Anyway, this has been absolutely wonderful, Jennifer. Thank you so much for coming on and talking about Research Manitoba, talking about STEM, talking about STEM and STEAM, and possibilities, and really what the next 10 years looks like in terms of possibilities, and really educating young girls to become a lot more interested in what they can do in terms of research.
Yeah, thanks for having me. This was a lot of fun. I appreciate it.
Thank you. All right. So this has been Coffee with Jenny B on the Multicultural channel. I'm your host, Jenny Sakovac.